Hey everyone, Gary Simon of CourseCetro.com, and today we're going to build a very simple app based on Angular Material. Now, Angular Material is simply Google's material design made to use for Angular projects. All right, so let's go ahead and check out the project that we're going to be creating and learning Angular Material in this tutorial. Okay, so here it is in my browser, and temporarily I just added some padding here. So this is more of a mobile sort of layout, and this is based on material design components. So we have the material design toolbar here with a menu here and certain icons that we can define, along with material design icons right here. We also see some icons down here, and this is from a font. Also, we have these material design cards. So these are based on cards, this sort of gallery that we have here. We can like them and we can change the colors. We can delete these if we wish. And then we also have material design tabs right here, and also a couple of form elements just to show you. And integrating these is really easy, as you will find out if you follow along in this tutorial. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so here in the command line, you want to run node-v and npm-v to check to see if you have node installed and npm installed as well. If not, if these go unrecognized, go to nodejs.org and download either the Windows or the Mac version. Install it all the way through, and usually by default, the Node Package Manager will be included. And then reload your console, your command line, and then come back and run these, and it should give you a version number. And then also ng for the Angular CLI command line interface, -v will also give you a version number. If not, you simply have to run npm install global, which means you only have to do this once, the Angular CLI, and then hit enter. And then you can run ng-v and it'll give you some type of output like this. Assuming you're all ready to go, our first step is to create the project. So we'll go ahead, we'll type in ng new, and the project name for this, we'll go ahead and name it ang-material. Now this does take a little bit time to download and install everything, so I'm gonna pause it and come right back. All right, once complete, we'll cd into ang-material, and then we'll go ahead and npm install. We'll save it to the package.json at Angular material. All right, once that is complete, we can go to our code editor, and we have to import Angular material to our app.module.ts file. So inside of Visual Studio Code or your code editor, whatever that may be, we'll go ahead to the source app and then app.module.ts. Now up here, we have all of our different imports, and I'll go just up here and paste in, import the material module from Angular material. And then we will also have to add it to our imports in the ng model decorator. So just after HTTP module, we'll add in material module for root. All right, we'll save it. Now, because Angular material has potential touch gestures worked into their components, it requires Hammer.js. And so we have to use npm to install that. So let's go back to our console, and we'll type in npm, real quickly, npm install, save it to our dependencies in package.json, and then Hammer.js. And then also one more time, npm install, we'll save as a dev dependency at types/Hammer.js. Okay, so now we'll go ahead back to our code editor, and we need to import Hammer.js here in the app.module.ts file. So import Hammer.js and then save. Also, we need to go to the tsconfig.json file, and right under, we have to add in a property called types. So types, open up in brackets, Hammer.js, and then save. Now, when you're working with material design, if you know you won't be using any material design icons, you can skip this step. But if you do want these icons, we need to include the material icon font in index.html. And if you want to browse these icons, you can go to material.io/icons, and there's a lot of them that you can use. So we're going to use a few of these in our own project. So what we need to do is head on over to index.html right here. And just right here, I'm going to paste in our font right here. I also want to include a font called Roboto, which material design uses, and we can see we have several different weights here. All right, so go ahead and save that. And now at our console, we'll go ahead and run ngserve. And then in our browser at localhost 4200, we can see the current result. Now, as you can see, it's really ugly, but that's expected because we don't have anything going for it yet. So now what we want to do is switch back to our code editor, and we're going to create a data.json file. Now, this of course is not mandatory when working with Angular material, but for the purpose of emulating a real world environment, such as a real project, we're going to create a data.json file for declaring a list of thumbnails and descriptions. This could be, it could be a blog post. In our case, it's just going to be a list of thumbnails and descriptions, and that's about it. But just basically screenshots for some type of game browsing app. So later on, we'll iterate through this using ng4 in the template and place them within Angular material cards. So let's go ahead and create a file named data.json inside of the source folder. So I'm going to go ahead and specify the name here, data.json, and I'm going to copy and paste this in here and save it. Now, I grabbed this, of course, from the Coursetro tutorial page. It's a written tutorial for this tutorial. And so if you want to head on over there, this is linked in the YouTube description if you're not already looking at it. That way you can just easily copy and then paste this in. Okay, so next up, we need to import a material design theme, and Angular material offers multiple. They offer one called Indigo Pink, Deep Purple Amber, Purple Green, Pink Blue Gray. Silly names, but we're going to use the one that's called Deep Purple Amber. So we need to open up the source style-css, and we'll import that right here. Go ahead and save. And then we also need to start off by creating the Angular material toolbar. Okay, so we're going to hop into app.component.html. We'll get rid of this h1. And to create a toolbar through material design, we do md-toolbar. We're going to give it a color attribute and make it primary. And we'll go ahead and close that off. And then inside, we're going to give it a span, which is going to be for our title. And we'll just name it Game Viewer. All right, save that. Now let's go ahead and also add a material menu. So over here you can see I have the browser window just so we can see what's happening live. So we add in span class equals spacer, and we'll define this in our CSS in a little bit. And then also we open up the button, md-icon-button, and then we do property binding of nd menu trigger 4 equals menu. And then we close the button, and inside of it, we'll put in MD icon, and then we specify the name of the icon, which you can get that from the material icons page that I showed you earlier. And this one is just the 3 vertical buttons. We'll hit save, and you'll see it's going to be right next to it instead of right aligned over here. And this is where we define the span class spacer in the styles.css. So we'll come here and put spacer, and I'm just going to copy and paste this in real quick. And this is based on a flex box right here layout. And so by adding this here in the middle, it's going to take up any space between these two elements. So if we save it, we'll see now it's over there. Now, if we click it, we can see nothing happens because we don't have any menu items inside of it. So let's go ahead and add that now. So instead of me typing all this out, because it is quite a bit, I'm just going to paste it from the tutorial page. And just to describe what's happening here, basically we have the MD-menu binding menu to MD menu here, and we have a button for each item that we want to show up, and they're all contained within buttons. And so then inside we also have an MD icon, and again we're getting these names from the material icon font page. This was a fingerprint for a login, and we also have an announcement for issues, and then notifications off or disable alert. And this is to show you what something looks like when it's disabled. So we'll save this, and momentarily it'll load, and we can click this, and there we go. We have our icons along with the labels right here. Now, if we click them, of course, nothing happens because we don't have any type of click event binding to them. Okay, so moving on, we're gonna go ahead and create some Angular material tabs. So just underneath our toolbar here, right in this section, let's go ahead and I'm going to put in MD tab group, and we'll close that off. And inside, depending on how many different tabs you want, we specify MD tab label equals, we'll make this one gallery, and then close this off. We'll copy this, paste it right there, and we'll make this one maybe like a settings page. So if we save it, you should see fairly quickly what this looks like. And you can see the styles are already applied to it, and it's very smooth. So now let's display the gallery right here, and it's going to grab this information from the data.json file that we created, and we'll use HTTP to fetch the results from the data.json file. So what we need to do, I'm going to open this up all the way just so we have some room to work with here, and we're going to go to app.component.ts. And the first thing we need to do is to import HTTP from the Angular HTTP library, just like that. And then after that, we have to create a property. I'm going to remove this default one here. We'll make space screens. You can name this whatever, and just screens if you want, of type array any. And then we have our constructor, and inside we're going to use dependency injection for our HTTP up top that we imported. Then we can use it inside and say this.http.get, and then this is where we reference our data.json file, and then we map the response to response.json, and we'll grab screenshots from it, and then subscribe res to this space screens equals res. So we'll go ahead and save this. All right, and now we'll come back here, and nothing shows, of course, because we're not doing what we need to do in the HTML right here yet. And so now we have to iterate through these using ng4, and we're going to embed these in material design cards. So to start off with this, we'll have md-card and ng4 let space screen of space screens. I'm going to open this up just a bit right here. And then also a semicolon, because we want to get the index, let I equal index. And close that off. And then inside of there, we're going to have first the image. So image, md card image, source equals, and I have the source of the images just embedded right inside of the data.json file. And so through interpolation with squiggly brackets, we have space screen.img, and Close that off. Let's just save it here. And those are broken images because I haven't yet imported the images that it uses inside of the Angular material source assets. We need to create an images folder. So you can either create that here through your code editor, or just go into your folders here, make an images folder. And I'm going to paste in the 3 images I can use. And by the way, you can download the project files to access these, and make sure just name, the same namespace 1, 2, and 3. We'll go ahead out of there. Let's go ahead and refresh, and there we go. Okay, so continuing on, let's go ahead and keep on adding. So I'm going to paste in right here the section for a description. So it's MD card content. We have a paragraph tag with interpolation of space green description. And then after that, we also have MD card actions. And inside of there, we place in our buttons. So we'll have a button of MD button, click event, which is event binding to a method called like me. And we'll pass along the index here, which is why we had let I equal index. And then inside of there, we're going to put in an HTML I element, class equals material dash icons MD18. And this is a size class, and then class red dash color with property binding to space screen dot liked here equals 1. And then we'll give it a MD icon of the favorite icon, and then close out the I, and we'll say like. So what's happening here basically is when somebody clicks on this button right here, it will call like me, and we have to create that. We'll create that momentarily. And what it will do is toggle on and off this class here based on a property value on space screen, whether or not if it's 1 or a 0. All right, so let's continue on. We're just going to copy this real quick, and we're going to create like a delete button. All right, so we'll change this here to just delete me, just to keep things consistent right there. And we don't have to change, I'm not going to change any type of property or color rather. So I'm going to get rid of that. This one's going to be named delete, and then we'll change this to delete. All right, and then we'll go ahead and save, and we'll see what this looks like. There we go. Okay, now let's hop into the component. So Control B here, go to our component file, and let's create those 2 methods. I'm just going to paste them in real quickly here. So we have like me, passing in I, and this is just toggling on and off. I probably could do this through a ternary operator, but I have it for now just like that. And then delete me. All we're using is splice just to remove the item here based on whichever one was clicked, which is the purpose for passing in the I argument. Okay, let's save. And we'll come over here. Now this, nothing's going to happen. We have to add a class of red color. So what we'll do is go to our styles CSS, and we'll specify red-color, color red. Save it. This will reload. And let's click it. There we go. So of course you would probably in a real world environment do more than just change the icon color. The purpose of binding it to a method in our component is so that, for instance, we could pass along the I, and then we can persist that preference that the person liked in some sort of database. You would do that in here. But obviously that would go beyond the scope of this tutorial. So what we want to do now next is create the settings content. So we have that tab over here and it's empty. So, oh, by the way, let's check out the delete just to make sure that works here. And it does. All right, so let's create these settings content. So we'll go back to our HTML. And down here we have the tab settings. And I'm just going to paste in what I have here from the written tutorial. And this is very simple. We just have a heading H1 tag, or element rather, and then just a paragraph, and then a label. The label would be associated with a, let's see over here, some type of form element. Right now it's not styled, but we'll do that shortly. And so now, just to get some experience working with Angular material form components, let's go ahead and add in a slider. The way we'll do that is just underneath here, we'll put in md-slider, and then we have a bunch of values that we can pass through. And you could check out the Angular material documentation for all of the possible attributes that you can add here. So show ticks equals true is one of them. By default, that is false. So we're going to make it true. Max is, say, for example, if this you want it to go from 100 from a min of 0. We could specify that. Step equals 1. Thumb label equals true. Value equals 18. That way we can just kind of give a default value from which to start. In real world scenario, if you were saving this in a database, you would fetch this in the database and put it there through binding of some sort. All right, and let's close that off. Let's save. Oh, first I do need to close this tag right here. So MD slider. All right, there we have our slider. Very ugly, we'll fix that though. And then let's also add one more, just right here. And this one will add a toggle. So that is md-slide-toggle. Some setting of a label here, and then close it out. As you can see, it's very simple to define these things. All right, now let's go back after saving. And we have our toggle working. Okay, so let's go ahead and give this some styles, just a few of them in our styles.css. And there's just 3 of them. And I'm going to copy this and paste that here. So we have the MD slider horizontal class here, the label, and also page padding. All right. The page padding, we have to add this div ID. So let's go back to right here. I forgot to add it right here. Div ID equals page padding, just because it looked like things are a little bit too up against the sides there for my taste. So I wrapped everything inside of a div here. So now we'll save it. Notice how it's pretty close like that. I do not like that, so we bring it in that way. So now this is 100%, and things are spaced out a little bit better, better label, etc. Okay, so now let's go ahead and, obviously in a real world scenario, you may want to customize the theme based on the color theme of whatever company or project you're working for. So the way you do that is to create a custom Sass file or SCSS, and we can define your commonly used colors or your project's theme based on that. So we have to create a custom theme.scss in the same folder as our styles.css. So I'm going to go ahead and create that. So it's going to be named custom theme SCSS, not CSS, remember. And then I'm just going to paste in, because there's quite a bit here, and I'm going to save this. But what's happening here is we're importing our Angular material all theme and the MD core. And then basically your customizations go here. So we have app primary, accent, and worn. And we're declaring palettes here. So for our primary color scheme right here, we have MD indigo. For our accent, we have pink. And so you may be wondering, where is it getting this information from, or what is it at all? So just to show you real quick, This is at the material.io guidelines for styles. And so if we come down, we could see the color palette. And so for instance, if we go to indigo, we'll see it's this kind of bluish, obviously indigo color. And we have different values here in terms of saturation that we can pass along. So we can change this to any of these names here and it should work. So that's how that works. And after that, you pass along your customizations here to MD Light theme. And then finally, you include this app theme variable right here. So if we want this to work, we have one more step and we have to go head on over to the Angular CLI JSON file and we add this under styles. So we put a comma here and then custom theme.scss. Then we save this, go back to the command line, I'm gonna hit Control C and hit Y to terminate, and then run ngserve again. Now we'll reload it, and we'll come back. Let me just minimize this. And there we go. So now we could see that this changed colors here. If we go to settings, we can also see we have the pink accent color here. And this works on these certain types of elements that are using it. So if we go back here to custom theme and also go back to the color theme, let's try making the primary palette, for instance, this teal color. So we'll specify teal. And we'll save it. And there we go. Great. So of course, we only touched on just a few, but really the most important fundamental factors of working with Angular material. But if you go to material.angular.io and go to components, you'll see the full list of what they offer in these 5 different categories for form controls, navigation, layout, buttons, icons, indicators, pop-up modules, etc. So they have a lot of really interesting things that you can use here and integrate very easily into your apps. And there's API references here, and there's also examples from which you can click over here to view source and view the HTML, the TypeScript code here in your component to achieve whatever this result is here, as well as any type of CSS that's needed. All right, hopefully you enjoyed learning Angular material here. Obviously, there's a lot more to learn, but if you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe here at the YouTube channel and also check out Coursetro.com for more content. See you later.